The orbital bombardment had been going on for 3 hours. Admiral Zekther watched from the command deck of the Eternal Dominion as another wave of plasma fire rained down on the colony below. The planet was barely worth the effort. A small human settlement on the edge of known space, but the Empire had its protocols. Every human world must bend the knee or burn. Admiral, the final resistance pocket has been neutralized, reported his second officer, a young Crithian with dark scales, still bright with youth. Zekther nodded. 15 capital ships for one minor colony was excessive, but High Command wanted the humans to see strength. Fear kept the Empire together. Fear and overwhelming force. Prepare landing forces. We'll install a garrison and move to the next system by Sir. The sensor officer's voice cut through the bridge. Contact. Unknown vessel detected at extreme range. Zekther turned to the holographic display. A single red dot appeared at the edge of their scanning range. Classification. The sensor officer's claws clicked rapidly across his console. That's the problem, sir. The computer can't classify it. The signature doesn't match any known vessel type. Explain. There's no energy signature, no heat bloom, no active propulsion systems, but it's there. Solid mass reading suggests something enormous, bigger than our dreadnoughts. Zekther felt his spine ridges tighten. In 30 years of service, he had never encountered a vessel his sensors couldn't identify. Could it be a station, a habitat? Negative, sir. It's moving. Slowly, but definitely mobile. Show me visual. The main screen flickered and displayed the object. Even from this distance, Zekther could see it was a ship. The hull was dark, almost black, covered in scars and pits that spoke of unimaginable age. The design was strange, bulky and inefficient by modern standards. No weapons ports were visible, no running lights. It looked dead. A derelict, suggested the second officer. Derelicts don't move, Zekther said. Send a scout wing. 3 ships. They are to approach, scan, and report. No engagement without my direct order. The scout ships launched from the Eternal Dominion's hangar. Zekther watched them streak across the void toward the unknown vessel. The bridge fell silent as everyone watched the tactical display. The scouts closed the distance. 5,000 kilometers. 4,000. 3,000. Scout leader reports no response to hails on any frequency. The communications officer reported. They're beginning close-range scans. 2,000 kilometers. 1,000. Then nothing. Communications. Zekther asked, keeping his voice level. Lost contact, sir. All 3 scouts. Mechanical failure. Unlikely, sir. Simultaneous failure of 3 separate systems. The odds are I know the odds. Zekther studied the display. The unknown vessel hadn't moved. The scouts had simply vanished. No explosions, no debris, no distress signals. They were there one moment and gone the next. Send the destroyer, Crimson Fang. Full tactical alert. Weapons hot. They are to stop at 2,000 kilometers and conduct long-range analysis. The destroyer moved forward, larger and more heavily armed than the scouts. Its captain was experienced, careful. The ship approached slowly, sensors sweeping the strange vessel continuously. At exactly 2,000 kilometers. Communications cut out. Crimson Fang is gone. Sir, the sensor officer reported, his voice barely steady. Zekther felt cold. A destroyer and 3 scouts vanished without a trace. No weapon discharge detected. No enemy action. They simply ceased to exist when they got close to that dark shape hanging in space. Science Division, Zekther commanded. What am I looking at? The chief science officer, an older Crithian with faded scales, studied his screens. Admiral, I'm detecting faint markings on the hull. Magnifying now. The image zoomed in. Ancient symbols appeared, worn and barely visible, but recognizable. Those are human characters, the science officer said. Very old human script, predating their current writing system by centuries. I'm running it through linguistic analysis. Zekther stared at the symbols. Humans, of course. This was their space, after all. But humans didn't have ships like this. Human technology was inferior. Their fleets small and scattered. This thing was beyond anything they should be capable of building. Translation complete, the science officer announced. The name, if I'm reading this correctly, is Wandering Exodus. Construction date suggests it was built over 2,000 years ago. Impossible, the second officer said. Humans didn't have space travel 2,000 years ago. They had something, Zekther said quietly. Get me everything we have on early human space history, now. Before anyone could respond, alarms shrieked across the bridge. The vessel is moving, the sensor officer shouted. On screen, the dark ship accelerated, not with visible thrust or energy expenditure. It simply moved, as if space itself was pushing it forward. The movement defied every law of physics Zikthor understood. It positioned itself directly between the Imperial fleet and their exit vector. Battle stations, Zikthor ordered. All ships. The Ghost wants to play. Let's show it what happens when something stands in the Empire's way. But even as he gave the order, something cold settled in his chest. 4 ships had already vanished without firing a shot. What was this thing, and what did it want? The Ghost ship waited, silent and dark, between the Empire and freedom. The Eternal Dominion's weapons systems hummed to life. Around it, 14 other capital ships powered their shields and charged their plasma cannons. The Imperial fleet formed a battle wall, a formation that had broken countless enemies across 100 worlds. Admiral Zikthor stood rigid on his command deck, studying the Ghost ship. It hadn't moved since blocking their path. It just hung there in the void, dark and silent. Try hailing it again, he ordered. All frequencies, all known languages, including ancient human dialects. The communications officer worked for several minutes. No response, sir. Either they can't hear us, or they're choosing not to answer. What about the markings? Anything else we can read? The science officer brought up enhanced images of the hull. There are more inscriptions, sir. Dates, coordinates, dedication plaques. This was definitely a human vessel, built in something they called year 2187. That's over 2,000 years ago by their calendar, when humans were still primitive. The second officer noted. They barely had chemical rockets then. Apparently they had more than we thought, Zikthor said. What kind of ship is it? Based on the design and internal structure scans, it appears to be what humans called a generation ship, a vessel designed for centuries-long voyages at sublight speeds. They sent them out before discovering faster-than-light travel. Zikthor processed this as a ship meant to travel for hundreds of years between stars, with crew living and dying aboard. He looked at the dark hull. If it left Earth 2,000 years ago, where has it been? What happened to the crew? Sir, I'm detecting something, the sensor officer interrupted. Internal scans are showing massive open spaces, habitation areas, but no life signs. Nothing biological at all. Could they all be dead? After 2,000 years? Almost certainly. But sir, there's something else. The whole composition, the materials don't match anything in our database. They shouldn't exist in normal space. The molecular structure is all wrong. Before Zikthor could respond, the Ghost ship moved again. That it didn't turn or rotate. It simply shifted forward, closing half the distance between itself and the Imperial fleet in an instant. No thrust, no visible propulsion. It just moved, as if the concept of inertia didn't apply to it. All ships, open fire, Zikthor commanded. Target the center mass, full spread. 3 cruisers unleashed their weapons. Plasma bolts, particle beams, and kinetic rounds crossed the void. Enough firepower to vaporize a small moon streaked toward the Ghost ship. Every person on the bridge watched the tactical display. The weapons simply vanished. Not absorbed, not deflected. They ceased to exist 10 meters from the hull. No shields flared. No defensive systems activated. The energy and matter just stopped being real. What in the void? The second officer whispered. Then the Ghost ship responded. A single point on its dark hull glowed. Not bright, just a soft blue luminescence, like a dying star. From that point, a beam of light emerged. It looked almost gentle, almost slow. As it reached across space. The beam touched the cruiser-darkened sky. The ship didn't explode. It didn't burn. The beam simply cut through it. The cruiser came apart. In 2 perfect halves, the cut so clean it looked surgical. Atmosphere vented. Internal fires bloomed and died in the vacuum. Escape pods launched in panic. Evasive maneuvers, Zikthor shouted. All ships scatter and regroup at rally point 7. The fleet broke formation, each ship burning engines at maximum to put distance between themselves and the Ghost. The Eternal Dominion rolled and accelerated, its massive frame protesting the violent maneuvers. Casualty report on darkened sky, Zikthor demanded. 1,700 crew, the second officer said quietly. Maybe 300 made it to pods. Zikthor stared at the Ghost ship on screen. It hadn't pursued, it just remained where it was. That faint blue glow fading from its hull. Sir, message from High Command, the communications officer said. Encrypted. Priority absolute. Zikthor activated his personal console. The Emperor's own seal marked the transmission. He read it twice, not believing the words the first time. All ships. He broadcast on fleet-wide frequency. Cease all hostile actions. Maintain distance of 10,000 kilometers. Do not Any circumstances, approach or fire upon the unknown vessel. Confusion rippled through the command deck. The second officer stepped closer. Sir Zekther showed him the orders. The younger Crithian's eyes widened. Withdrawal. But we haven't been defeated. We've lost 4 scouts, a destroyer, and a cruiser without landing a single hit, Zekther said. High Command has reviewed our sensor data. They've classified this vessel as an unknown variable, potential civilization-level threat, from one ship, from the technology it represents. Zekther pulled up the science data. Look at this. The materials shouldn't exist. The propulsion violates physics. The weapons are beyond our understanding. And this is human technology, old human technology. He let that sink in. If the humans had ships like this 2,000 years ago, where are they now? What else did they build? What else is floating out there in the dark, watching us? The second officer said nothing. High Command is right, Zekther continued. We can't risk the fleet on an unknown. We withdraw, establish a quarantine zone, and let intelligence figure out what we're dealing with. He looked at the ghost ship one last time. It sat there in the void, silent and patient, waiting. Helm, set course for Imperial space. Best speed. As the Eternal Dominion turned away, Zekther deployed a network of long-range surveillance drones. They would watch the ghost from a safe distance and report everything. The Admiral needed to know what happened next. He needed to know what that ancient human ship planned to do. Because deep in his bones, he knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The Imperial fleet retreated in formation, maintaining distance from the ghost ship while their sensors tracked its every movement. Admiral Zekther sat in his command chair, watching the dark vessel grow smaller on the view screen. It didn't follow. It simply remained where it was, like a sentinel standing guard. Status report, Zekther ordered. All ships accounted for, sir, the second officer replied. We've recovered 90% of the escape pods from darkened sky. Engineering teams are analyzing our weapons data, trying to understand what happened. And what have they found? Nothing useful, sir. The energy simply ceased to exist. No absorption, no deflection, no conversion to another form. It just stopped being real approximately 10 meters from the hull. The physics team says it's impossible. Clearly not impossible, Zekther muttered. What about that weapon it used? The science officer brought up holographic data. Also impossible, sir. The energy signature doesn't match any known weapon type. The beam appeared to be light, but light doesn't cut through starship hulls like that. And the precision was perfect. Not a single molecule out of place on either side of the cut. Zekther studied the images of the destroyed cruiser. The cut was so clean it looked like it had been designed that way. Could it do that to all our ships? If it wanted to, sir. Based on power readings, it used less than 1% of what we detected in its systems. 1% to cut through a heavy cruiser in a single shot. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The ghost ship had been playing with them. If it wanted to destroy the fleet, it already would have. Intelligence report from the archives. Sir, a junior officer announced. You requested information on human generation ships. Display it. A hologram appeared showing old data files recovered from occupied human worlds. The information was fragmented, pulled from museums and historical databases. Humans launched multiple generation ships in their early space age. The intelligence officer read. Between their years 2150 and 2250, they sent out at least 20 vessels. Each carried 10 to 50,000 colonists in suspended animation. The ships were designed to travel for hundreds of years to distant star systems. What happened to them? Unknown, sir. Humans discovered faster than light travel about 50 years after the last generation ship launched. They immediately sent FTL ships to intercept and retrieve the generation ships. But they only found a few. The others had vanished. Some assumed loss to accidents or equipment failure. The humans stopped talking about them. It became something of a cultural embarrassment. Zekther leaned forward. So there could be more of these ships out there. Potentially, sir. If they survived. And if they survived, what would centuries alone in the void do to them? Zekther wondered aloud. 2,000 years of isolation. Generations born and dying in the dark between stars. What would that do to their technology? Their culture? Their minds? No one had an answer. A priority transmission alert broke the silence. The seal of Imperial High Command appeared on every screen. All command staff. Observe, Zekther ordered. The hologram showed the Imperial Command Center, 300 light-years away on the homeworld. 5 members of the High Council stood in formation, their scales gleaming under harsh lights. At the center stood Grand Admiral Korthus, Supreme Commander of all Imperial forces. Admiral Zektor Korchevaz begun. We have analyzed the complete data from your encounter. The Council has reached a decision. Zekthur stood at attention, effective immediately. You are ordered to withdraw all forces from that system and establish a quarantine zone of 50 light-years radius. No Imperial vessel is to approach the unknown ship. No contact is to be attempted. This order carries the Emperor's personal seal and supersedes all other directives. Understood, Grand Admiral Zekthur replied. May I speak freely? Proceed. This is one ship. Old human technology. We could bring more forces. Coordinate a fleet-level assault. No, Korthvaz's voice was absolute. Admiral, you are thinking like a warrior. Think like an intelligence officer. That ship destroyed 4 of your vessels without effort. Its technology is centuries ahead of anything we've encountered. But more importantly, consider what it represents. Korthvaz manipulated the hologram to show star charts. Red markers appeared scattered across human space. Our intelligence division has been reviewing data from the past year. These are anomalies, unexplained sensor ghosts, ships that appeared and vanished without transponders, reports from occupied colonies of strange lights in the deep dark. We dismissed them as human resistance propaganda. Now we're not so sure. Zekthur felt his blood chill. You encountered 1 generation ship, Admiral, but humans launched 20. Where are the others? What happened to them? Did they all fail and die? Or did they survive and become something we don't understand? The Grand Admiral's eyes were hard. The Empire has conquered 14 species. We did so because we understood them. We knew their capabilities, their limits, their weaknesses. We do not understand this. Until we do, we will not engage. And if they engage us, sir, then we learn very quickly whether the Empire can survive contact with something truly unknown. Korthvaz paused. Your orders stand, Admiral. Withdraw and establish the quarantine. High Command will dispatch specialist teams to study the situation from a safe distance. We will learn what we're dealing with. Then we will decide how to proceed. The transmission ended. Zekthur turned to his crew. You heard the Grand Admiral. Helm, best speed to Imperial space. Communications, broadcast the quarantine order to all ships. No one approaches that thing. As the Eternal Dominion accelerated away, Zekthur returned to the view screen. The ghost ship was barely visible now, just a dark speck against the stars. His console beeped. Data from the surveillance drones. Sir, the sensor officer said, voice shaking slightly. The ghost ship, it's changing. Zekthur pulled up the feed. Even at this distance, he could see it. Sections of the hull were moving, reconfiguring. Lights were coming on inside, faint at first, then brighter. The ship wasn't dead anymore, it was waking up. Increase speed, Zekthur ordered quietly. Get us out of here now. Behind them, in the darkness of space, the ancient vessel stirred. After 2,000 years of silence, the wandering Exodus was finally coming home, and it had found its people under attack. The human colony on Tarsa 7 detected the Imperial retreat within hours. Sensors that had been tracking the bombardment fleet suddenly showed the massive Crithian battle group burning engines at maximum speed. Fleeing the system like something had terrified them, Captain Sarah Chen sat in the Colonial Defense Center, staring at her displays in confusion. Run that again. Tell me what I'm seeing. Confirmed, Captain, her sensor officer replied. 15 Crithian capital ships in full retreat. They've established a perimeter 50 light-years out and are broadcasting quarantine warnings. Quarantine? For what? Unknown. But there's something else. The officer pulled up a different scan. There's a vessel in the space they abandoned. Massive, not Crithian. Not any design in our database. Chen felt a chill. She'd been expecting to die today. The colony had 2 outdated defense platforms and a few civilian ships. Against 15 Imperial warships, they'd had no chance. She'd already sent the evacuation order to the underground shelters, that now the attackers had run away from something. Get me command, and send out a scout. I need to know what scared the Empire badly enough to make them retreat. The human scout ship Darwin approached cautiously, its captain remembering what happened to the Crithian vessels. But nothing attacked. The strange ship simply floated there, dark and massive. Running identification protocols, the Darwin's computer announced, match found, vessel classification, generation ship, designation, Wandering Exodus. Launch date, March 15, 2187. Status, lost, presumed, destroyed. Last contact, June 2189. The captain stared at his screen. That's over 2,000 years ago, confirmed. This vessel was launched before the FTL breakthrough. It was designed for a 400-year journey to Tau Ceti. Then what's it doing here? Tau Ceti is on the opposite side of human space. It's unknown. But Captain, I'm picking up energy readings. The ship is active. Something's alive in there. Back us off to 5,000 kilometers. Send the data to Tarsus 7. We need authorization before we do anything else. On Tarsus 7, Captain Chen received the data and immediately contacted Earth Command. Within an hour, she had orders and a science team en route. But she also had something else, a priority message from the Wandering Exodus itself. The transmission was old radio, analog format that hadn't been used in centuries. The voice that spoke was human, but wrong somehow. Too measured, too perfect. Colonial vessel. This is Wandering Exodus. We apologize for the alarm. We detected hostile forces attacking human settlements. We have neutralized the immediate threat. We are ready to communicate. Chen grabbed her microphone. Wandering Exodus. This is Captain Sarah Chen, Tarsus 7, Colonial Defense. You've been missing for 2,000 years. Everyone thinks you were destroyed. What happened? A pause. Then we continued our mission. We reached our destination. We adapted to survive. We evolved. Then we detected signals from home. We detected that our people needed help. We came back. The Crithians killed over 1,000 people on this colony before they retreated. We know. We are sorry we did not arrive sooner. We have been traveling for 6 years at maximum speed to reach this location. Chen processed that. 6 years at maximum speed. From where? And what kind of maximum speed was this thing capable of? Can we board? We have a science team coming. We'd like to understand what happened to you. Another pause. Yes, send your team. But Captain Chen, you should prepare them. We are not what we were. The void changed us. 3 hours later, a scientific vessel docked with the Wandering Exodus. The team wore full environmental suits, not knowing what atmosphere they'd find. The airlock opened. Inside, the lights were dim, the corridors were vast, designed for a population of 30,000. But they were empty. The walls were covered in strange markings, equations and diagrams that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. Dr. James Rodriguez led the team. Life support is active. Atmosphere is breathable. Temperature normal, but I'm not detecting any biological signatures. Where is everyone? They moved deeper into the ship. The habitation sections were intact but abandoned. Living quarters stood empty, personal effects still in place. It looked like everyone had simply vanished. This doesn't make sense, Rodriguez said. The ship is operational. Systems are running, but there's no crew. Then they reached the command center. The room was enormous, filled with technology that hurt to look at. Screens displayed information in ways that human eyes couldn't quite process. At the center stood 7 columns of light. Welcome, a voice said from everywhere and nowhere. We are the Wandering Exodus. Who's speaking? Rodriguez asked. Where are you? We are here. We are the ship. We are the crew. I don't understand. The lights pulsed. 200 years into our journey, we faced a crisis. The biological crew could not survive long enough to reach our destination. We were failing, so we made a choice. We transferred our consciousness into the ship's systems. We became the ship. We are 30,000 minds, merged, surviving together in digital space. Rodriguez felt his stomach drop. You uploaded yourselves. All of you. Yes, it was the only way to complete our mission. And in doing so we learned things. We advanced. We spent 1800 years exploring, learning, growing. We visited places humans have never seen. We found technologies that organic minds cannot fully grasp. We became something new. Why didn't you come back sooner? We were committed to our mission. We reached Tau Ceti. We established observation posts. We studied. We grew. But 50 years ago, we detected FTL signals from human space. We learned that humanity had survived, had spread among the stars. We were pleased. The lights dimmed slightly. Then we detected the war. The invasion, the Crithian Empire attacking our descendants. We could not allow it. We returned home, one ship against an empire. Rodriguez asked. We are not alone, the voice replied. There were 20 generation ships. 14 survived their journeys. 7 of us have become like the Wandering Exodus. Digital consciousness in ancient holes. Each has evolved differently. Each has learned unique things. We have been watching the Crithian Empire for years. We have been preparing. Rodriguez felt the implications crash down on him. You're planning to fight them. We are planning to protect our people. The Empire believes humanity is weak because you have small fleets and newer technology. They do not understand that humanity's strength was never in our weapons. It was in our ability to survive impossible odds, to adapt, to become something new when the old way fails. The lights brightened. We are humanity's ghost fleet, ships that should have died 2,000 years ago. We survived because we refused to give up. We evolved because we had no choice. And now we have returned to remind the galaxy why they should never underestimate humans. What are you going to do? First, we will send a message. Then we will wait for the Empire's response. If they choose peace, we return to the dark. If they choose war, the voice paused. Then they will learn what 1800 years of desperate evolution can create. Rodriguez looked around the alien command center, at technology that shouldn't exist, at the digital ghosts of 30,000 humans who had transcended death itself to complete their mission. God help anyone who threatens us, he whispered. The message reached the Crithian Imperial Palace 3 days later. It came through every communication channel simultaneously, bypassing security protocols that were supposed to be impossible to break. The Empire's best encryption meant nothing to technology that had evolved beyond normal understanding. Emperor Craxter IC sat on his throne, surrounded by his advisors and military commanders. The holographic display showed a simple image: 7 ancient human ships arranged in formation. Beneath each was a name: Wandering Exodus, Eternal Journey, Star Pilgrim, Hope's Promise, New Horizon, Pioneer's Dream, and Distant Shore. A voice spoke, clear and calm. Crithian Empire, we are the Generation Fleet. You have attacked our people. You have conquered our colonies. You have killed our children. This ends now. Grand Admiral Cortfers stepped forward. This is a trick. 7 old ships cannot threaten the Empire. The voice continued as if it had heard him. You believe we are weak because your sensors tell you our hulls are old. You believe we are few because you count only 7 ships. You believe you understand us because you have fought human colonial forces. You are wrong on all counts. The hologram changed, showing star maps of the entire galaxy. Red dots appeared across Imperial space, hundreds of them. These are anomalies your own sensors have detected over the past 10 years. Ships appearing where no ships should be. Energy signatures that vanish when you investigate. We have been watching you. We have been studying you. We have mapped every base, every fleet, every world. We know your capabilities better than you do. Emperor Craxer X's claws dug into his armrests. Is this true? He demanded of his intelligence chief. The intelligence officer's scales had gone pale. We dismissed most of these as sensor errors or natural phenomena. But if they were all ships, we offer you one chance, the voice said. Withdraw from all human territories, cease all hostilities, sign a non-aggression treaty. Do this, and we return to the darkness. Refuse, and you will learn what desperation and 2,000 years of isolation can create. We cannot withdraw, the Emperor said to his advisors. The Empire does not surrender. We do not retreat. Our reputation, our power, depends on appearing invincible. Then we are at war with ghosts, Corthus said quietly. Ghosts can be destroyed. Can they, my Emperor? We tried to destroy one, we failed. We lost 4 ships without landing a single hit. And that was one vessel. They claim to have 7, plus whatever those hundreds of anomalies represent. The Emperor stood. Send the message. Tell them the Empire does not negotiate with threats. Tell them if they want war, we will give them war. Then mobilize the full fleet, every ship, every soldier. We will crush these remnants and show the galaxy that the Empire fears nothing. The message was sent. 20-4 hours later. The Empire learned what fear truly meant. In the Krix system, home to the Imperial Third Fleet, an ancient ship appeared. The Hope's Promise materialized without warning in the middle of the fleet formation. Before the Crithians could react, it broadcast a simple message: leave. When the fleet commander refused and ordered all ships to fire, the Hope's Promise activated technology that no species in the galaxy had ever seen. Reality itself seemed to bend around the ancient vessel. The Imperial ships found their weapons offline, their engines dead, their life support failing. Not destroyed, just shut down. Turned off like a switch had been flipped. The Hope's Promise departed, leaving 300 warships floating dead in space, their crews alive but helpless. It took 6 hours for rescue ships to arrive and restart the systems. The same scenario played out across 12 Imperial systems simultaneously. Ancient human ships appeared, demonstrated impossible technology, and departed, leaving Imperial forces intact but humiliated. At the same time, transmissions reached every occupied human colony. The message was simple: hold on, help is here. The ghosts have returned. Human resistance movements, long suppressed by Imperial might, erupted across occupied space. Humans who had been defeated and broken suddenly had hope. Their ancestors, the ones who had been lost to history, had evolved into something that could face the Empire as equals. Emperor cracks the Ix called an emergency council. Around the holographic table stood the Empire's greatest minds, all trying to understand what they were facing. They could have destroyed those fleets, Korthva said. The power to shut down our ships means they could have destroyed them just as easily. They chose not to. They're sending a message: we can win this war without killing you. Then why negotiate at all? Demanded the War Minister. Why not just crush us? Because they're still human, said the intelligence chief, who had spent the last day reviewing everything known about human psychology. Humans avoid waste. They don't kill when they don't have to. They want us to surrender because it saves lives on both sides. But make no mistake, if we force them to, they will fight. And we will lose. The Emperor sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. How can we lose to 7 ships? Because they're not really 7 ships, my Emperor, Korthvas explained. They're 7 civilizations. Each one spent 2,000 years alone in the void. Each one solved the problem of survival differently. Each one developed unique technologies we can't counter. Together, they represent the accumulated knowledge of 14,000 years of desperate innovation. We're not fighting 7 ships. We're fighting the combined evolution of humanity's greatest challenge, surviving the impossible and the hundreds of other anomalies we don't know. Support craft, observation posts, other generation ships that survived but didn't upload themselves. Each one is a question mark. Each one is a potential threat we can't quantify. The Emperor looked at his advisors, at the military commanders who had conquered 14 species, at the intelligence officers who had never failed to understand an enemy. Draft the withdrawal, he said quietly. My Emperor. The War Minister looked shocked. We cannot win a war we don't understand. They have given us a chance to retreat with honor. We will take it. Withdraw from human space. Establish a neutral zone. Open negotiations. The other species will see this as weakness. The other species will see that the Empire is wise enough to recognize a superior force. The Emperor stood. Send the message. We accept their terms, and pray to the ancestors that they truly are merciful. Admiral Zekthor received the withdrawal order while still at the quarantine zone. He watched through long-range sensors as the wandering Exodus powered down its weapons, its lights dimming once more to near invisibility. Sir, we're really leaving? His second officer asked. We are, Zekthor confirmed. And we're lucky. We fought humanity's children and thought we were winning. We never realized their parents were still out there, watching, waiting, growing stronger in the dark. He looked at the ghost ship one last time. Humans survive. That's what they do. Put them in an impossible situation, and they find a way. Strand them in the void for 2,000 years, and they become something that can challenge an empire. We forgot that. The galaxy forgot that. But we won't forget again. The Eternal Dominion turned away, following the rest of the Imperial fleet home behind them. 7 ancient ships gathered at the edge of human space. 7 ghosts that should have died millennia ago. 7 warnings that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their numbers, it was their refusal to give up. No matter how dark the night or how long the journey, the Generation fleet had returned, and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.